Hi, in this video I'm going to be teaching you how to get started with HTML and how to build simple web pages with HTML. Alright, let's get started. What is HTML? HTML just means hypertext markup language. It's basically how you can structure web pages, and with that knowledge I'm going to start here. So I'm going to open this in VS Code. So there are two ways to do this in VS Code. You can right click, open in terminal or whatever CMD or CLI you have, and I can just do code dots. It's going to open up in VS Code for me, and that is one way. The second way you could do is right click on this, show more options, and open with code. It does the same thing to open in VS Code for you. Now I'm going to click that and let it load up. What I want to do now is to open up a new file in VS Code. Alright, then we have on this left hand side, which is basically our explorer for VS Code. Click on this and I would add a new file over here, and I'm going to call it index.html. So when programming, we have what we call file names and file extensions. The file name is what we would call the name of the file, and the file extension is how the file is being saved or how your file it is. So modern HTML uses doc type, and that is this doc, capital letters type HTML. All right, this is a way to tell your browser that this is an HTML page and the version of HTML we are using. And on HTML pages, we wrap our HTML file with an HTML tag just to show the starting and ending of the file. And we normally have tags that have some starting and closing tags. So for example, we could have a tag that's something like this, that starts like this and ends like this. This is starting and this is the closing tag, and you have some content inside. All right, now there are a few self-closing tags and there are a few tags that you have to close at the end like this. We're going to get into all of that in this video. HTML starting tag is at the beginning of the document, that's this here, right after the document type declaration. HTML ending tag is the last thing on the document. There are going to be other things in between here, but this shows the first thing on the document and the last thing on the document. And inside the HTML elements, we have two elements. We have head and the body. Now let me add the head over here so that you see what's going on. Head. This is the head element, and let me add the body. This is the body element. Let me delete this over here so that we could have a clean slate. All right, and in between this head and body, we have different things. Inside the head, we have tags that are essential to creating a web page. Things like the title of the web page, the metadata, and internal or external CSS in JavaScript, where you want to link them or you want to write them in your head tag. So mostly things that do not appear on the web page are things that you put in the head tag, and we're going to get into that in a minute. So the body tag is things that you can see. They are the visible things that you can see in a web page. Right, now what is the difference between tag and elements? What is the difference between tag and elements? Elements have a starting tag and a closing tag. So we have something like this, right? Content. It has a starting tag, it has a closing tag, and it has some text or context in between. This is an element, right? Why tag is just this. All right, and if an element doesn't have a closing tag, it's only written with a starting tag, and it cannot contain any text contents. What that means is that if you just have something like this is invalid. All right, you have to close this over here if you use the closing tag. Now let's go over to HTML attributes. Attributes are basically information that we can attach to elements or tags that we can use to give more context. So for example, we have class, so we can call this p name. All right, this is just an attribute that we added to this HTML element over here. And we also have id. Id is, maybe like we can call this p contents, and we have a lot of them actually. These are just two different attributes that are mostly used in HTML programming. Now, an ID only holds one value, all right, and class can hold multiple values separated by space. So what that means is that you can add multiple values here. You can call this simple class, but this can only hold only one value, because an ID is used to specify an exact content, or rather specify an exact element. Why a class can be used to target a couple of elements. So you could have maybe different things like this. You could say, you could call this item, you could call this type, just give me random names over here, and I will say I, and I will say T. Right, this is used to target specific items on your DOM element or on your web page. All right, and you can commonly use dash to separate words in a class or in an ID. It's just normal conventions. There are different conventions. One popular convention for naming variables or class names is the BEM convention. You can look that up later on. Other things to also note is white space. So if I have something like this, I'm just going to type something over here. So another thing to think of is white space. So you could have a couple of things over here, and I can maybe put here is it. What's going to happen is that my browser is going to see this as one line, right? Because it is wrapped in this tag, and I'm going to show you how to break it into different lines some other time. But if I have lots of space over here, if I put something like this, it's going to be all on one line. And now for me to show you how this looks, I'm going to right click over here and click open with live server. It is an extension that you can download. So if you come to this side, you will see extension and look for live server. Look for live server. Then you could just download it over here, this extension. All right. So yeah, this has started. So we have this over here, and this is how we view some of the things we just wrote. Now let me just increase this over here so that you could see better, and I hope it's a whole lot better now. Yeah, it is. So yeah, like I said, it's going to wrap all of this in just one page, or one line rather, like this. All right, so now let's talk about what is in the head components or the head elements, and that is this over here. What can you add in the head elements? You can add things like title, scripts, link, styles, base, and meta tags. Now, what is a title tag? So let's just try this over here. Title, and I will call this simple web page. Save this over here. We should come here and see this simple web page over here. It replaces this with your title tag. And let's look at script. So let's say you want to write some JavaScript over here, which is above the scope of this video, so I'm not going to go into that. If you do something like this and you close that, let me put that well, you could write some JavaScript into here, right? But more often than not, what we like to do is we like to link up our JavaScript. So you can call something like main.js, and you could just come to your file explorer over here, right click, make a new file, main.js, right, and maybe do something simple, console.log a file. All right, if we see that over here, if we control click on this, it's going to take us to this file to show that, oh, it has been linked together. That is how you can link up your JavaScript in your HTML. And some people like to put their script files at the bottom of their body tag, or the last element in the body tag, and that's basically because they feel that the file is a bit heavy and they want it to load faster. But there is really no need for that right now, because we're just dealing with the basics. Now we could put in some other or the link for linking HTML. Let's call this style.css and rel, yeah, rel equals style scripts, style sheet rather. I'm going to close this and make this file style.css. all right, so this is for linking CSS files. Link tag is used to set relationship between documents and other sources. All right, but this is how we link CSS files. This is how we link, or this is how we put in our JavaScript files into our HTML documents. You could also link other things like RSS feed with this link elements over here, but we're not going to go into all of that in this video. Now I'm going to try to add some styles to this web page, and I would use the head style over here, put in the style elements in the head, and I'm going to use one of these classes, and I'll call this a background of red, and let's see how that looks. If I refresh this over here, you can see that it gives this background as red, and that's why I was trying to point out that classes, you could duplicate classes across different elements if you want to have some particular styling applied to all of them, or in case you want to target just one. So for example, if I want to target this just one, I'm going to do something like this, and I would say color blue. All right, let's see how that looks. So we see that all of this is blue and the background is red. So what else we're going to do over here is to ensure that we can use the meta tags. So I'm going to introduce meta tag source, but alternatively, you could put this in your style.css. So if I cut this and I put this over here, I can just paste it here, and it's still going to have the same effect. I'm going to remove this style tag and reload this. You can see that this hasn't changed because we have linked our CSS file, and we could do this over there. And we have meta tags. Meta tags are for SEO. All right, so we're going to call this name, description, and okay, let's correct that over there, and contents equals to a simple page. Close this over here. Awesome. So the next thing we'll talk about is the document body. What is in the body tag? We have talked about what is in the head tag. We said that it was title, script, link tag, and a couple of meta tags, which we didn't delve deep into. Now we'll get into what is in the body tag. All right, now just like we have HTML and head tags, we have only one body tag in one page, and in the body tag we have all the tags that define the content of the page. So we're going to make a difference between block elements and inline elements. So block elements are basically element that defines a particular scope of code or something to hold a section together, while inline elements are that you can put in between block elements. So for example, you have something like this. Let me make this a link, and I'm going to set like a href. Gonna close this here as a link. All right, I'm just gonna put https here. That over there. Save this. Now let's go back to our live server. You see, okay, let me remove this so that we can see how it actually looks. Yeah, so we see that this is a link. If you can look down here, you would see that it's showing google.com, right? That's to show you that, you know, inline elements can be used in between block elements. So another one you could use is span. So let's say I have something like this. Let me call this span. Okay, let's just make an actual text. Let's say something like welcome to this spa, and I want to make this span maybe because I want to style it. So normally you use span for maybe something you want to style. So you have something like this here, you want to maybe style it differently from all of these, you could just use span. Then we also have the image, in case you want to put an image tag. We'll get into that later on. So that is basically the difference between block elements and inline elements. Now let's talk about HTML tags that interact with text. So we have p tag over here. Let's have a clean slate. I'm gonna delete this. So p tag over here is one tag that helps you to interact with text. The text, right, is a block element like we have discussed earlier, and we can add any inline element like span, or a link tag like a, or an image tag. We should not ideally add another block element inside this p tag. Ideally that should not be the case. All right, and we should not try to nest p tags inside another p tag, right? I would always advise you to use a div. We're going to get into that now. Another tag that interacts with the text like we discussed is the span tag. This text is big, so something like this. So let's say I want to p span target of the span and say font size 50px. let's see. Yeah, so this is how targeting, or this is how span works, or this is how we use span in case you want to style a particular text different from other text, right? This text is big, and if you want to make something break a line, we have a break line tag, or br tag. So let's say you want this to come down, you could just do something like this, br, save it, then it comes down. So that's like a breaking line. Now we have some other important things like the heading tags. So HTML provides us 6 heading tags which you can, you know, use to style different headings, and we have about 6 of them, starting from h1 to h6. So I'm going to say heading 1. Now I'm going to copy this and paste this. How I did this is I hold my alt and I hold my shift and my down arrow button, and I just, you know, go down. I'm going to Control D. You could just use the normal way around it, but I just want to be a bit faster. 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's call this 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So we see here that this is what's it called, reducing in font and font size and weight. typically you have your h1, right, heading 1, h1 as your page title, right, something that will be the biggest and one that would something you want to communicate more than everything, or want people to see more than other headings. Then you can now start dropping it down the numbers based on the type of content you want. Headings are very important for organizations and also for SEO, that is search engine optimization, so that browsers would, render the h1 tag bigger. Browsers will know which is heading tag and which isn't. Then we have other tags like your strong tag, browsers to make things a bit bold. So let me do something like this. So I'm going to remove the styling over here, comment this out. Yeah, it's fixed. So this box normal. Then let me add a strong tag over here in case you just want to make things strong. I'm going to save this. You see that it makes this bold. It places an emphasis on the text. Alright, another one is to make things in italics. So in case I want to make this italic, I could just do em. I'll put all of this inside the em tag. Wait for it to do it. Now you can see it's in italics. Right, then we have quotes. In case you want to add quotes, in case you want to add a horizontal line, let's do the horizontal line one. So you want to do something like this, hr, just like the br tag. It's a self-closing tag. It's a tag that you have to close on a single opening tag, not a self-closing. Yeah, I think it's also, you can also call it self-closing, but let's see how it goes. Yeah, this is an horizontal line. So in case you want to add something, maybe you write a text, you want to add a line, you write a text, you want to add a line, write a text, you want to add a line, you could just show you how that works over here. Move that there, and maybe you have some sort of text over it. So something like p tag. Let me just put p. I don't know if Lorem works here. Okay, I think it doesn't work. I'm going to just this is a dummy text over here. Yeah, you have maybe some text over here, and say you want to put another text here. This is a sub text for this blog. Right, let me increase this for you to see. Alright, I think this is a whole lot better. Yeah, let me go back one. Okay, I think this is better. So that is horizontal line. Alright, now we have let me clean this over here so we can have a clean slate. I've talked about headings. Now I want to talk about lists. We're still talking about what is in the body tag. Talking about lists, we have 3 types of lists. We have unordered lists, unordered lists, and definitional lists, but we're going to treat just 2, which are the most popular ones. We normally use ul to start lists. It's a pretty simple thing. Li for each item in the list. You can see first, let's just call this different kinds of fruits. Let's call these different kinds of fruit. Let's say apple, let's say watermelon. Let's make it capital letter. Let's say let's call this pineapple. Let's see how it looks. So you can see how it creates a list over here. This is an unordered list. Ordered lists are quite similar. We use the ol tag. So all you just need to do is copy here, or rather just change the u here to o and the u here to o. So I'm just going to do that right now. So what I did just now is I highlighted this because I want to highlight something else that is similar. I hold Ctrl D, my cursor moves down, then I move it to where I want to change, and it kind of group everything together that I want to change and changes it for me. Then what you see here is that it changes this to numbering system, and that is how you create lists. Now we have other tags like markings, underlining, we have crossing. So let me just show that over here. I'm going to use a, let's just say, so let's just practicalize this a bit. Let's say H3 some other tags, and I'll say mark. I'm going to ins, this is for underline. So let's see how it looks. So you can see it underlines the text, it marks this. Let's do one more. We have strike through, and we call that DEL. Save this. You can see I have strikes through, and that is how we use these other tags, create these other effects we see on HTML pages. Now let's talk about links. Links are defined using the A tag. The link definition is a set via its href attribute. Then we talked about href attributes earlier, or we talked about attributes in HTML tags earlier. So we're talking about links now. Let me just put it over here, links. Alright, so you see what we're talking about. Then something like this, href. I know I showed this earlier on, so I'm going to just https www.google.com. I say something like click here. Then we go to here, you see click here, right? So if I click on this, it's going to actually take me to google.com. Let's show that. Yeah, it took me to Google. Let's go back. Now, how does this work? This is basically a link tag, right? We're using HTML. So between the starting and closing tag, which is here and here, we have a text or a link text that would be displayed. So if I change this to Google here, something like this, we have the text change. All right. Now we can also link some other part of a document, which I'm sure we'll get into that later. So this is not just for linking web pages that are outside. You could also link some other part of your HTML, right? If you have some other we should be careful with this character, this black backslash character, because if omitted, instead of starting the URL from the origin, the browser would just add this to the current URL. So let me just show, let me change this to get users. Right, let's wait for it to load up, or I'll refresh it. Yeah, get users. So if I click on this, you can see that it changes the URL to /get_user. All right, so link tags can also include other things. All right, so let's say we can also include an image tag inside. We don't have any images now, but I just want to let you know that you can also include images in a tag. All right, that is now one other thing for tags, for link tags, that's A tags, is let's say you want to open the link in a new tab. You can always use, so let's go back to, if I want to open this link in a new tab, I can just say target equals to underscore blank. Right, let's go back to how it was. Click on this and it opens the new tab for us. Now let's talk about container tags and page structure tags. Container tags and page structure tags. So what are container tags? They are basically a set of tags that help us to contain an all specified amount of tags. We have three major ones that are popularly used. We have article. I didn't spell that right. Article. Oh, what's happening? Okay, article. Let me clear this up. We have article, we have section, and we have divs. All right, and it can be quite confusing to understand the difference between. Let me just put this over here. It can be quite different to understand how this three works and when you use either one of them. The article tag identifies a thing that can be independent from other things in a page. For example, a list of blog posts in the home page or a list of links. So if we want something that can be independent of other things, so for example, if I call this let me say the news feed, right, an h2 tag here, the news feed, right? Then I have maybe something like a href. I'm going to put that over there so that I can, right? Then I have maybe something, yes, something. Let me copy this and paste it. Control C, Control V, space this out a bit, and I would say something like more news feed. Same thing, read more. So let's go here. So this was used to, you know, containerize or to section or to group together two related pieces of tags, right? So this also was used by an article tag. So we are not limited by how much you can put inside or the kind of things you can put inside or the kind of tags you can put inside. You can also even put a p tag inside here and say here is the latest news for today. Save that. You see it shows over here. So it's just basically a way to section things that are independent from other things in a page. All right, now a section represents a section of a document. Let's call this here, this is where we have section, represent a section of document. So each section has a heading tag, then the section body. So you would often find something like an maybe like h2 tag and say main section. Then you have like a p tag that would maybe say something like the boy or something like, yeah, something like that, right? Then you have maybe like an image an image tag some details over here, but we're not going to do all of that, right? But what we mostly use a lot of times is divs. Let's just see how it looks over here. That's here. What we use most times is divs. That is this over here. Div is a generic container element. This is the most common one you would see if you watch tutorials, if you watch videos. It's a generic container element. You could add anything to it. Oftentimes you could add like a class or ID so that you could easily style this, and you could place this anywhere we need a container, right? So let's say let me clear this over here and put this. Do we have a clean slate? Yes, we do. Awesome. Let's say I want to do something like this. Today I experienced something amazing. I'll call this h4 and I'll say maybe my name. Alright, today I experienced something amazing. Alright, this div is a generic type of container tag that you can use to put anything inside. You could put a link inside here and say ahref and say maybe something like my websites, which I'll say click here. All right, maybe want to see, want to know more, click here. All right, it takes me to, okay, so you can see, you can see that when I click on this, it appends this to the back of the base URL, and that's not what we want. So we want it to move to a different page. One of the things we can try out, we're going to try this out live now, and I'm going to say underscore blank. I'm going to go back, refresh this, click on this, same thing happens, right? So what happened now is that underscore blank takes us to a new page or a new tab, but does not change the URL, how it works. If you want this to actually open up, right, in a new browser, in a new tab with this, just this, right, what you just need to do is add maybe like HTTPS, put this over here. Let's go back. I'm going to click on this. When I click here, it's going to take me to my website. All right, and that is how we work with things like that. Then we have some tags related to the page. Container tags related to a page. We have nav tag, nav here, nav. So this is used to create, markup that defines the page navigation. Normally we would have things like maybe like URL. No, not. We could have URL and say li and create a list of links and say this is the home page, home. You can say, so I'm just going to, since it's the same thing over here, I'm just going to copy this. I'm just going to copy this, paste this over here, call this blog, save this. Let's see how it looks. So we see that this now it looks like just a list, right? But way for you to tell the browser that, oh, this is a nav bar or this is a navigation element. We could style this a lot more and make it look, more like a on a straight line. We're not going to get into that right now, but that is how you would go about something like that. You could use your CSS styling to style it correctly. Then we also have the header tags. Now the header tag represents a part of the page that is like the introduction, right? It can contain, like, so we have something like, let me close this over here. So if you have a couple of header tags that you want to display, you could just wrap it in your header tag and say h1 section title, right? Then you have your main tag, which represents the part of the page. So header tags, just to be clear, header tags represent the part of the page that introduction, so it can contain like one or more headings. Then we have main tag and we have footer tags. So main tag represent the main part of the page, so this would be like the header, this would be the main. So like in this situation, maybe something like we have a div over here, and inside that div you would have maybe like a p tag to say something like this is the basic parts of the page. All right, then we have your footer elements. So footer determines like the bottom part of the article, so you do something like this, footer, and you would have maybe p, this is the end of the page. All right, this is how it's basically gonna look. And you maybe have your your navigation elements over here, like how we discussed earlier. And that's how, you would literally section the page so that you know what part is what parts, and you'll be able to pick things out later on in case you want to edit them, in case you want to adjust them.